my friends, it's the Fat Man GM. Of course, Rick once again coming with you with my revisitation of FASA's Star Trek the role-playing game, circa the 80s and 90s. The particular version, or the particular book we're looking at today is the Klingons, and its second Starfleet Intelligence Manual. It's, like I said, some of the most iconic aliens out there are the Klingons, and as the TV series, as the franchise evolved, so did the Klingons. We saw increasingly more interactions with them. When the Next Generation came about with the inclusion of Worf, we actually see a Klingon as part of the Starfleet crew, and we get ourselves a little bit more detailed view because the public wanted that. The fan base wanted to know more about this aggressive enemy of the Federation and sometimes ally, and so that's what they did. And we've seen even more of them in Deep Space Nine. We've seen there were, as far as I know, no Klingons in Voyager. There might have been half Klingon. What's her name? Was a half Klingon? I'm not sure, but the Klingons, right? So in the game situation, we have yet another Starfleet Intelligence Manual. This came out later, although I'm a bit conflicted because the issue number says it's older than the Klingon Intelligence Briefing. So you'll have to forgive me if I don't quite have these guys all in their exact like I said, I'm not sure. In my mind, these two came together. This is 2002A and 2002, so this would have been a set, I think. I think this came as a set, but I can't be for sure, because this is the game operation manual. This is basically the rules for creating Klingons and establishing Klingon characters for players as well as NPCs, so you could role play and have entire campaigns truly, solely based on the Klingons themselves, and which is because, once again, so many people asked and wanted to know. The surest way to defeat your enemy is to become his friend, a traditional Klingon saying. Your friends are to be a little less likely to work against you. So, Klingon Briefing and Starfleet Intelligence Command is prepared with a source book. Provide the Klingon Bureau of Starfleet Intelligence Command. Prepared the source book to provide line and staff officers with general overview of the Klingon Empire, Klingon people, and the Klingon Imperial forces. It provides Starfleet officers the most background information they will need to deal with any Klingons they encounter. During this time of uneasy peace, for detailed information refer to other specialized volumes published by Starfleet or FASA, especially 4-Year War, the Klingon Intelligence Briefing, and the Klingon Ship Recognition Manual, which I have, and I've seen recently, but I don't know where I placed it. I gotta find it. A great deal of material from different sources has been used in preparation of this volume, where sections of other works or writings or other authors have been quoted verbatim. The original authors and sources are credited. Contents of this book. We got an informal guide to the Empire, respective view. Second viewpoint. Glossary of Klingon terms. That's basically an argument about whether or not they should have made this thing in the first place. This is from Commodore Taval Deschesandre, former military liaison to the Organic Treaty Administration and an Andorian viewpoint. Andorian wars have fought for honor, for family, for territory. Becoming members of the Federation, we found we could claim honor, protect family, and acquire territory without endless bloodshed that previously stained our history. The Klingons, too, have fought for these reasons, but they also revel in the joy of combat and the thrill of the victory. Humans revere peace and still celebrate when the war is over. Andorians revere victory, celebrating when their needs are satisfied. Klingons celebrate when a battle begins, revering the state of war even more than the fruits of victory. By their very nature, they will crave battle, and it is an essential quality that Ford and Tagor's informal guide would deny. Understanding the Klingon culture does not make it any more palatable. Does not mean the OFP and the Federation the Klingon Empire must fight today. The Klingons must fight someone, somewhere, or else cease to exist as a race. This is true, and this comes up a couple times in other elements that try to quantify the Klingons. So, glossary terms, a great game. Many Klingons believe that the Comrax Za, literally translated as the game of empire or game of growing culture, is the focus of the line's efforts. It's also known as the perpetual game. So it's always playing a game of complicated chess, if you will. More like a game of domination. The Klingon language, variations. Layman may be surprised to learn the Klingons rarely use the Klingonese verb ho, to kill. The preferred construction is to make dead, a subtle but important difference. A living, thinking organism, even an animal, cannot kill except by accident, for the term kill implies removal from the action of fate. It would only apply to deliberate action if it were essentially casual. Applied to a person, as in the phrase to go kill him, implies that no value is placed on the killing. The term krahex is a slang term meaning dead, or more generally, non-functional. Almost exclusively refers to a deliberate act of killing. The derivation of this term is tied closely to Klingon concept as empire as a growth structure. See next entry for details. Klingon Empire, military situation, battle language, Klingon epitaphs. If one is to deal with Klingons, a command of insult form is a must, if only to know when one has been insulted. The Klingons' favorite derisive term over many members of the Federation is Earther, or the Klingonized equivalent of Atuta Anda, meaning literally big man of Earth. They apply this term to virtually any member of the human race, whether or not the individual is actually born on Terra. It would not be used for humans who vary greatly in appearance from Terran humans, such as the golden-skinned natives of Hintalis 4, who are 100% Terran-spawned humans, despite the unusual coloration caused by certain chemicals in their water. Yeah. The name is more insulting than it sounds, as the big man translates implies that Terran dominates the domination of the Federation. Such willing to accept his domination is an intolerably insulting idea to the Klingons. The Klingons both respect and despise Vulcans, although they grudgingly acknowledge the Vulcan technological accomplishment and the Stoic lifestyle. Vulcan pacifism and vegetarianism is anathema of Klingons. Thus, a Klingon may publicly denounce a Vulcan, but he will rarely underestimate one. Vulcans are often called leaf eater and calculating machine, but the Klingons are aware that they can trust a Vulcan tells them, because when a Vulcan reluctance to tell a direct lie. Lying is, in some respects, a Klingon way of life, and so the Vulcan's compulsive truthfulness can be unnerving. Klingons will take advantage of it whenever they can. Klingons now classify the fierce warrior culture of the Andorians as Kastostrox, because Andor accepted membership in the Federation while fighting to the last for their independence. Klingons see Andorian moves towards peace, a weakness in a previously respectable warrior race. Thus, an Andorian may often be the butt end of ultimate Klingon insult, of that of willing slave, etc., etc. Know that all things done before the naked stars are remembered. Klingon Empire, their timeline. Every day is a good day to die, motto of the Imperial Marines. Various encounters. Klingon home system. There's several entries for this, and quite a bit of it is the same, and yet there's some various differences, some subtle differences if you go and you read the entries thoroughly and compare them. Kinsey's most dependent planet in the known galaxy. Said here, some may say I was lucky to have been spared the wrath of Klingon justice in the field and taken instead to the Klingon homeworld for interrogation. More than once I counted those lucky of my comrades who had died in battle under interrogation. Cruelty is a concept the human mind cannot imagine to the fullest till one has been to Sylvie, the Klingon penal colony on Klinzah. On the Klingon homeworld. I lived for several months in the depths of hell itself. The mines were surrounded by wretched sufferers of 100 non-human races. Only the most valued prisoners were allowed to come to the surface but once a day. At one side of the cloudy, murky sky each day I marched to the surface interrogation facility. It might have deemed totally dismal to anyone else. It was one clear breath of almost freedom before the pain of madness began again. I never walked back to the mines. I simply woke up there after my nerves rejected the day's torture and returned me to consciousness. For 7 months I was slaved beneath the radioactive dust I knew was accumulating day by day in my lungs. Saw my companions die of it, or of the little amusement stringed up by our Klingon jailers. The guards themselves were condemned to this place, so they took out their hate on the non-Klingon prisoners. Those visions haunt me still. I watched the Vulcan Staku, a prisoner taken in a raid on a peaceful science station, die bit by bit, deprived by our diet of algae and sea offal to the trace nutrients essential for health of his kind. His great strength and endurance faded day by day, but not a stoic belief that one day rescue would come. The war ended and the prisoner exchange was arranged for Staku and myself, but not in time. They were all uranium dust tickets, still only finally died of malnutrition and massive tumors in his lungs just 2 days before our release. It is to him and all the other victims of the Klingon cruelty that I dedicate this work. From In the Presence of Mine Enemies by Colonel Leland Q. Schuyler Grant, Starfleet Marine Corps. All right, and we have a little bit of a view of the Klingon, a generic, much. You got to acknowledge that there's hundreds of star systems that are not listed here. This is just a couple key locations: the Triangle, Romulan Space Federation's place. To give you a working idea of what, if those of you who don't know how the Klingon, how this is the politics up. Now we got extent of empire, the Organic Treaty Zone, the Klingon Neutral Zone, Triangle Holdings, Unknown Frontier. It says here, there is some evidence that all Klingons have encountered or made in contact at least one other spacefaring group whose origin and nature are unknown. It's speculated Klingons defeated them during an earlier war and still maintain armed occupation of portions of their territory. This would account for some of the findings of Operation Dixie, as well as certain patterns of Klingon military force development in the past. Till warfare erupts again, if it ever does, between Klingons and the unknowns, this theory cannot be proved or disapproved. This information is clarified in this book. And yes, there's a reason why the Klingons press so hard against the Federation, and in part later years, they become it becomes obvious that the Klingon Empire is going to stagnate and diminish instead of grow, because in reality they're boxed in. They come to a point where there just isn't, unless they move beyond the existing political boundaries of the alpha and beta quadrants of the galaxy. The Klingons really don't have a lot of room for expansion and growth, let alone new sources of resources to exploit. One thing the Klingons are good about is exploiting their resources. Problem is they're too good at it. They exploit it to excess until they're depleted and then move on. Only a fool fights in a burning house, a Klingon proverb. The Romulan Star Empire, Foreign Alliance, and Folian Assembly, the Orion Colonies, the Unknowns. Just a repeat of what I read. Klingon physiology, conflict, survival. A lot of this we already covered in the briefing. The Klingon mind. As a race, Klingons are indeed a hard, unforgiving, even cruel. Within the group, however, individuals vary in their expression of these traits. The gentlest of Klingons might seem harsh to a human, and the most open and naive of their race would likely seem secretive and suspicious. Within their own culture, though, the differences are recognizable and broad. There is no average Klingon any more than there is an average human. During the 4 Years' War, the Starfleet devoted intensive efforts to developing psychological warfare programs designed to intimidate the enemy. When we realized that the intimidation was so much a part of Klingon daily life, it was far more intense than any of us could devise. The Klingons understood intimidation on an internal level that humans never experience, and so it was a useless weapon against them. On the other hand, Klingons as a group did not understand the concept of cooperation as humans do because it is not part of their survival behavior. Klingons cooperate only when forced to, while humans cooperate almost by instinct, because millions of years of successful evolution have reinforced the behavior. Humanity thrives in diversity. Klingons, however, deny diversity as a virtue. In the end, this is the ability of humans and other Federation races, and most notably the Vulcans, to accumulate the goals of others that brought the greatest successes in psychological warfare. Wow. Early family life. Klingon social structure, established order, adult life, which we covered a bit in the other book, family lines, which we covered, status and names. We all understand that concept there. Courtship. Imperial race. This is, we get into some of the variants of the races. Imperial race is purely Klingon form, dominates Klingon politics through the fusions have made some great strides toward political social acceptance. One of the best kept secrets of the Empire is that the average Klingon is physically a little inferior to the average human. This is contrary to popular human belief, especially among those who have been in a brawl with the Imperials. Nevertheless, comparisons of hard medical data show that the Imperial race Klingon to be less well endowed than Homo sapien terratus. But hasn't anyone noticed this? The answer is the absolute physical ability is not the same as effective ability. The Imperial has been a sort of psychological battle conditioning since birth, participating in training at school, the years, games, and urged constantly to excel and triumph. So Klingons may actually have less muscle power but they do have more with what they have. As a corollary to this, is not to be overlooked, is the fact that Federation cultures, even militaristic ones such as Andor, do not stress fighting to kill, but rather to disable or capture. And surely brawls for resistance, our enemy or energetic lads aren't usually trying to hurt anybody. This point is frequently lost on the Klingons. From An Informal Guide to Klingon Empire by Ford and Taguer. There you go. There's some physical and interesting psionic prohibitations, fusion races. Klingons generally don't have psionic abilities or see Latin uses in it. And it was implied that early on, if they were suspected of having such abilities, they were put to death. Because in a paranoid society, the last thing anybody wants to think of is somebody that can read thoughts. This is one of the reasons that the Klingons are highly suspicious of Vulcans, even though they literally take whatever a Vulcan says is the truth, because they know that Vulcans don't lie. So they don't understand is Vulcans. Certain Vulcans can learn not to. It's not how you speak or how you. It's not how you lie, but how you speak the truth. So sometimes you can be quite clever in turning a phrase. The Klingon government, Klingon politics, civilian ranks and titles, religion, Klingon armed forces, Imperial fleet, ranks, academy, education. It matters not that I survive, only that which I defend. Forfeit life, but not honor, from the Klingon Oath of Empire. Skill mastery, final exercise, skill application, advanced training, shipboard life. Then we get into some various Klingon ships and vessels. Starship tactics once again. Klingon diplomatic corps, Imperial Marines, personal equipment specifically geared for the Klingons, Klingon manufacturer. vehicles, medical equipment, medical pouch, weaponry. It's always been something that kind of interested me, was the differences between in weapon technology. The Klingons exclusively, but the Romulans and a number of other races use something called a disruptor. For all intents and purposes, a disruptor is a sonic-based weapon. It will disrupt something at the cellular level, is what they call it. So see right here, disrupts and damages the cell structure of living organisms. It cannot disintegrate them, unlike a phaser. A phaser disintegrates. If fired at solid objects, it produces a vibration and heat, either shattering or melting. Now, the exact result will depend upon the structure and materials of the target. So theoretically, a disruptor literally disrupts the matrix of something. So if they shot this book, the book would not disintegrate. It would just come apart in many, many tiny pieces, as opposed to the phaser technology, which will disintegrate something to the point where it's gone. There's no thing left. It's basically been eliminated and diminished to the atom components, if you will, and dispersed. Shipboard systems, the transporter, major Klingon, some crests from major Klingon lines. We got the Klingon Oath of Empire. Beneath the stars that drip the blood, I stand defiant and alone. I am here, my Emperor, call upon me, I beg of thee. I was nothing before this day, and nothing shall remain if I cannot serve thee now. Pain and suffering are my just rewards. Do as me as serves thee best. Matters not that I survive, only that which I defend. Forfeit of life, but not armor. In thy cause, death is at last most welcome. I am here, my Emperor, ready to the last to be an instrument of thy will, ready to obey and die. So, the Klingons.